We've had him on the show before. One of the reasons I want to have him back this afternoon, and we are having him back, isn't necessarily because he's running for president, although I think that's great, but because he has a very, very good, solid, realistic plan to save Social Security. Congressman McCotter, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me back.
You never, that week that we talked to you, you were supposed to come to St. Louis, but you got stuck in Washington, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was the whole debt ceiling debate time, right?
Yep, it was the real deal. And, you have responsibility.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, go into that question before I get to the Social Security stuff. Why aren't you on the stage with these other guys in these debates? Have you been given a reason?
Well, the reason is different stations have different criteria. I respect the First Amendment. It's one of those things I got to deal with. But the thing that's frustrating is to get into the debates, you need to put up a poll number. And then I'm left out of 80% of the polls that are out there.
Yeah, because how could you put up a lower poll number than John Huntsman?
It's Kafka-esque. If you're not named on the ballot, you don't get a ballot. No, you don't get a poll number, however low it may be.
Well, I feel badly for you on that. And you, I think when we had you on before, you know it's a long shot. But look, you're putting out serious proposals, and that's why I wanted to talk to you about Social Security. So I think this is an interesting idea. Of course, if the left gets a hold of it, they'll demagogue it. But explain what you think should be done here.
Well, I started from the premise. Let me start. I've worked with Peter Ferrara, who's on the conservative side, one of the experts in Social Security, very passionate about it. And we started from the premise that as a political matter, take out Republican Democrat, the things that you would hear demagogued about Social Security are the privatization aspect. You would hear about the raising of benefits, the raising of the payroll tax.
Right.
You would hear about the cutting of the benefits of the raising of retirement age. And so we said, can you do it without doing any of that? And see if you can get support from both sides of the aisle. And we put forward a plan that would rely upon reducing government spending, which is something that has to happen, taking a portion of it to allow people 50 and under within Social Security to start receiving some of their future benefits now in an account, a personalized savings account that would allow them to begin to build up their benefits over time to reduce the strain on the system.
And where would that, if I have, and see, I like this idea, and I know that there was a variation on this theme that was tried during the Bush administration, and it didn't get very far, but I remember speaking with Congressman Ryan extensively because he was involved in that. I don't know if you've had discussions with him on this particular plan. So how would that work? I'm under 50. Now, by the time you guys pass this, I'll be over 50, but let's say for the sake of argument, I'm under 50, and I want to take some of that money. I choose to take some of that money into a personalized savings account. Then where does it go?
Yeah, the difference between the Bush plan is the Bush plan diverted the payroll tax into private accounts.
Okay.
And that would have put the risk of the accounts on the senior citizens who are currently receiving it and people with disabilities. That's why we rely on reductions in government spending. It has to happen. We don't touch the payroll tax, and we leave the accounts within the system until you hit the retirement age. Now, according to the chief actuary of this, he expects 100% participation. It's optional. It's 100% participation because the prospects of receiving more benefits through the free market forces and the actual creation of capital and investment income would avail the recipient far better than just simply going along with what the government's doing.
But with the money that's coming out right now, so the payroll tax, the businesses, my employer pays the payroll tax, I pay the payroll tax, right? A little reduced this year and maybe next year because you guys passed, along with the president, the reduction, and he wants to continue.
I voted against it.
Yeah, well, and I don't blame you for that. I would have supported that vote, but just so everyone understands, the money is going. It's going into my Social Security account. So I get these. We all get around our birthdays. I think the statements that say this is how much money you made on given years, and this is your projected benefits. So the money then into the savings account would come from where?
Yes, from reductions in existing government spending. We're preparing a companion bill to show where the cuts can come from. So obviously, most of that go to deficit reduction, but we just need enough to start it up and get it going. And we're not going to go into debt to go into debt. Now, you bring up the interesting point about the payroll tax. If you think about it, one of the arguments against using the payroll tax was that it would reduce the money that went into the system, and money would have to be borrowed.
Right.
And that money that was taken from the payroll tax would go towards savings for your retirement, correct?
That's the way I understand it.
When the president talks, this is President Obama who opposed that, talks about the payroll tax, he's diverting the payroll tax not for savings, but for consumption.
Yeah, and that's the reason to oppose it, right?
Yes, well, and that's the irony of his position. He will allow the payroll tax to be diverted for immediate consumption as opposed to future savings.
But I'm slowing the uptake here. So if that percent, let's say the percentage is 6%, isn't that what it's supposed to be?
Yeah, we're not touching the payroll tax.
So, but there would be no more money taken out of your check to go into the personal investment accounts, right?
Right, it would come from reductions in government spending.
Got it. Now, how would my personal investment account vary compared to my producers who's sitting across the aisle based on the percentage of my income and what I'm paying in right now?
Yeah, it would be a portion of your benefits the same way that they're totaled every time that you look at your statement from the system. The only difference would be is that it's actually in a real personal investment account within the system. Right now, you're just seeing what you'll get when you retire.
Yeah. And in that account, so you could access that account, you could see what's happening to it.
Yep, and it makes it harder when people realize that it's theirs. It's basically a fulfillment of what FDR said, because right now, as you know, it's a simple redistribution system where it goes in and it goes out, and you're left with a statement that if you stay in the system, this is what the system owes you. Right now, it would be your name on it. It'd be a personalized account. You could have 3 different options underneath it to do it. You don't have to do it, and you'll be able to watch it every day and know that that's what you are entitled to.
What are the 3 different options?
Well, we're working. The investment options were different gradations of aggressive investment. And again, you don't have to do it. One would be able to go into more, aggressive investments, or you could just play it safe and go into more standard things. But you'd have those 3 options in front of you. You get to determine it. But the funding, again, comes from the reductions in government spending and taking a portion of those to fund it. That way you're getting the best of both worlds. The government is getting more accountable, more nimble, more leaner for the 21st century as it needs to do, more horizontal, if you will. And you're also then starting to utilize free market forces and more individual control over their retirement benefits to actually help support the system and save it. And as the chief actuary also has pointed out, it would constitute a reduction of $8.5 trillion in long-term government debt, which, as Peter Farrar has pointed out, would constitute the largest debt reduction in history.
So I just had, my good friend Congressman Lacey Clay, who was just on the program.
Oh, I know Lacey.
Yeah. So
Big Cardinals guy.
Yeah, well, he is. He's a good guy. He just referred to me as I'm his favorite conservative. So tell him that you take offense to that. But anyway, I bring his name up because he might come on here and say, you know how Lacey is. He'd read from the talking points and he'd say, we can't trust someone to make their own. I'm putting words into his mouth, but I can do that right now. We can't trust someone to make those decisions, Congressman. Because what happens if someone puts the money into an aggressive fund and then that money's not there in the end when they need it for retirement? So how do you respond to that?
The retirement is guaranteed by Social Security in the event that we have a complete market tank. Historically, it shows that if it goes up, it goes down, but over time it goes up. And thirdly, I would point out that right now you're giving a big gift to the government in return for the IOUs while they spend your money, and you have no better person to take care of your future retirement savings than you.
Do you think you can get, look, let's be honest, this isn't going to get any traction before the election next year, but do you think you have people that would take a look at this? And I would assume you'd require a little bit different makeup of not only the House, but the Senate. You need bigger numbers in the House and then a change in the Senate. Do you think you can get Democrats to go along with this?
Well, I don't know what Democrats are going to do. I hope that they would be open to it because, again, it doesn't privatize it by diverting the payroll tax.
But they'll say that it will. You know that's what they'll still say.
Well, they can lie. I can't stop people from lying.
Right, but that's what they'll do.
Well, I don't. If you preface your actions on someone lying about them, you're going to find yourself in a very miserable existence.
I know. I just look. They tossed Congressman Ryan over the cliff in a wheelchair, or at least a look-alike Ryan in that New York district.
Yeah, how's that working out for him?
Well, that's a good point actually.
Trust the people.
That is a good point, and I'm with you all the way. Is there a place where people, my listeners, who might be intrigued by this idea and would want to find out more, can find out more?
Yep, it's at mccotter.house.gov. All the information will be there.
How's the rock and roll going?
I was out in California with some Tea Party events and some fundraising events, and actually found time late at night. I think we might have cut a campaign theme.
What's the band called again?
It was a friend of mine who has his own band.
But you guys playing because Hulsop played drums with you guys, right?
Yeah, that's the Second Amendments.
The Second Amendments. That's what I remember. When I met you, that's what you were introduced as the guitar player, I believe, for the Second Amendments.
Yeah, and Kenny was introduced as my drummer.
That's right. You know, who says Republicans cannot rock and roll? Congressman Thad McCotter from Michigan.